In 1903, a secret ingredient vanished from the world's most popular beverage. Before that year, every single bottle of Coca-Cola contained approximately 9 milligrams of a substance that would later be banned worldwide. Over 400 million servings were consumed annually, each one laced with the extract of coca leaves, the same plant that produces one of the most addictive substances known to humanity. This is the story they don't advertise. This is the dark history of Coca-Cola and cocaine. For over a century, Coca-Cola has positioned itself as the drink of happiness, of family gatherings, of American values. Its red and white logo is recognized in every corner of the globe. Children grow up with it. Families share it. Nations have gone to war with cases of it in their supply lines. But beneath the carefully crafted image of wholesomeness lies a history the company has spent billions to reshape, to sanitize, to bury beneath layers of marketing and nostalgia. The truth is uncomfortable, the origins are murky, and the transformation from a cocaine-containing tonic to a global beverage empire required secrets, lies, and a complete reinvention of reality itself. What you're about to hear isn't conspiracy. It's documented history, archives that exist in dusty corners of libraries, court records, chemical analyses, testimonies from those who were there when the formula was created and when it was changed forever. By the turn of the 20th century, Coca-Cola faced a crisis that threatened to destroy the brand entirely. Across America, a moral panic was spreading. Newspapers ran headlines about dope fiends and cocaine addicts. Ministers preached from pulpits about the dangers of patent medicines. Mothers organized boycotts. State legislatures drafted bans. And Coca-Cola was caught directly in the crosshairs. The company's own advertisements from the 1890s promised that the beverage would cure your headache, relieve fatigue, and invigorate the body. They marketed it as a brain tonic, a temperance drink, a cure for morphine addiction. The implications were clear. This was no ordinary refreshment. Critics began asking dangerous questions. What exactly made this drink so invigorating? Why did people seem to crave it? Why did some report feeling energized, alert, even euphoric after consuming it? The answer was hidden in plain sight, written in the flowing script across every advertisement: Coca-Cola. The name itself was a confession. Coca from the coca leaf. Cola from the cola nut, containing caffeine, two stimulants combined in a sweet, carbonated delivery system that masked their true nature. But while caffeine was accepted, Coca was becoming America's public enemy, and the Coca-Cola Company had to make a choice: adapt or die. To understand how Coca-Cola became entangled with cocaine, we must travel back to Atlanta, Georgia, in the year 1886. The city was still recovering from the Civil War, jobs were scarce, hope was scarcer. And in a small laboratory, a man named John Stith Pemberton was conducting experiments that would change the world, though not in the way he imagined. Pemberton was a pharmacist, a Confederate veteran, and by most accounts, a morphine addict injured during the war, dependent on the drug for pain and desperately seeking a cure for his own condition. He had become fascinated by a European product called Vin Mariani, a wine infused with coca leaf extract that was endorsed by celebrities, artists, even Pope Leo XIII himself. The drink promised vitality, mental clarity, and relief from fatigue. Pemberton believed he could create something similar, something American, something that could liberate him and others from their dependencies. His first creation was called Pemberton's French Wine Coca, a direct imitation of Vin Mariani. It sold moderately well, but then Atlanta passed prohibition laws banning alcohol sales. Pemberton had to pivot. He removed the wine, added carbonated water, enhanced the formula with cola nut extract for additional caffeine, and mixed in sugar and flavoring to mask the bitter taste of the coca. On May 8, 1886, Coca-Cola was born. The original formula contained fluid extract of coca, the same ingredient used to manufacture cocaine. While the exact amount varied from batch to batch, chemical analysis from the era suggest each serving contained somewhere between 9 and 12 milligrams of cocaine alkaloids. To put that in perspective, that's roughly one-tenth the amount used in a typical recreational dose. Not enough to produce intense euphoria, but absolutely enough to create a noticeable stimulant effect. Enough to make you feel sharper, more awake, more focused. Enough to make you want another glass. Pemberton's marketing was aggressive. He called it a brain tonic, an intellectual beverage. Advertisements claimed it cured headaches, hysteria, and melancholy. Soda fountains across the South began serving it. Sales climbed. But Pemberton never saw his creation become an empire. Struggling with addiction, in declining health, he sold portions of his formula to various investors. By 1888, he was forced to sell his remaining stake to Asa Griggs Candler for $2,300, roughly $70,000 in today's currency. Candler, a shrewd businessman, recognized the product's potential, but he also recognized the growing danger. Cocaine was becoming controversial. Stories were emerging about addiction, about breakdowns, about the dark side of the coca trade. The very ingredient that made Coca-Cola unique was becoming a liability. Yet for the next 15 years, Candler continued producing the drink with coca extract. Why? Because people loved it. Because it worked. Because removing the coca might destroy the very thing that made Coca-Cola special. The company walked a tightrope, advertising the coca connection when convenient, denying it when questioned, reformulating in minor ways to reduce alkaloid content while maintaining the mystique. But the tightrope was freeing. The year was 1903. The progressive era was in full swing. Journalists were exposing corporate corruption. The Pure Food and Drug Act was being drafted. And Coca-Cola was running out of room to maneuver. The company faced pressure from multiple fronts. State legislatures were considering bans on cocaine-containing beverages. Competitors were spreading rumors. Temperance groups were organizing boycotts. The federal government was beginning to take interest. And then came the laboratory reports. Independent chemists had analyzed Coca-Cola and found measurable amounts of cocaine. The evidence was undeniable. The company could no longer deny, deflect, or distract. In 1903, the Coca-Cola Company quietly reformulated its recipe. They didn't announce it. There were no press releases, no public statements. The change happened in shadows, in production facilities, behind locked doors. The new process involved treating coca leaves with solvents to extract nearly all cocaine alkaloids before adding the remaining spent coca leaf flavoring to the syrup. Technically, trace amounts might still exist parts per million, but the psychoactive component was effectively eliminated. Coca-Cola had removed the cocaine. But here's where the story becomes even darker. They kept using coca leaves. Even today, the Coca-Cola Company imports coca leaves, tons of them annually from South America. They work with a single pharmaceutical company in New Jersey that is federally authorized to process the leaves. The cocaine is extracted and sold to pharmaceutical companies for legitimate purposes. The decocainized leaf extract goes into Coca-Cola. The formula still contains coca, but the cocaine is gone. When the Pure Food and Drug Act passed in 1906, Coca-Cola was technically compliant, but the government wasn't satisfied. In 1909, federal agents seized a shipment of Coca-Cola syrup in Tennessee, claiming the product was adulterated and misbranded. The case, known as United States v. 40 barrels and 20 kegs of Coca-Cola, went to trial. The company argued truthfully that they had removed the cocaine, but prosecutors countered that the name itself was misleading, that caffeine was harmful, that the company had built its empire on addiction. The case dragged on for years, appeals and countersuits, until finally reaching the Supreme Court in 1916. Coca-Cola essentially won, though they agreed to reduce caffeine content and modify advertising claims. The cocaine chapter was officially closed, but the shadow remained. Today, Coca-Cola is consumed more than 1.9 billion times per day across more than 200 countries. It's a symbol of globalization, of American culture, of capitalism itself. The company has spent over a century distancing itself from its origins. The cocaine connection is rarely mentioned in official histories. When it is acknowledged, it's framed as a quirk of the Victorian era, a time when cocaine was legal and commonly used in medicines. But this framing misses the deeper truth. Coca-Cola's success was built, in part, on a pharmacologically active ingredient that made people feel good, that created a pattern of repeated consumption, that turned a beverage into something more than refreshment. When the cocaine was removed, the company faced an existential crisis. Would people still drink it? Would the magic disappear? The answer was no. Because by 1903, Coca-Cola had already established itself through brilliant marketing, widespread distribution, and yes, years of cocaine-assisted brand loyalty. The removal of the active ingredient didn't destroy the brand, it liberated it. It allowed Coca-Cola to become respectable, to be served to children, to position itself as wholesome. But the legacy remains: the secrecy around the formula, the continued use of coca leaves, the aggressive protection of trade secrets. The global empire built on a recipe born in a morphine addict's laboratory, containing an extract of the same plant that has destroyed countless lives. This isn't a story of villainy, it's a story of transformation, of a product that evolved from a medicinal tonic laced with cocaine into the most recognized brand on earth, of a company that learned to sell not just a drink, but an idea, a feeling, a moment of happiness in a bottle. But beneath the polar bears and the jingles and the nostalgia, the history whispers, reminding us that what we consume, what we crave, what we love, sometimes has origins darker than we imagine. The story of Coca-Cola and cocaine raises uncomfortable questions about the products we trust, the companies we support, and the histories we choose to remember or forget. What do you think? Does Coca-Cola's dark origin story change how you view the brand? Should companies be more transparent about their histories? Or is the past simply the past, irrelevant to what these products mean today? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. This conversation is far from over. And if you found this documentary eye-opening, you need to see our investigation into the secrets of the fast food industry, another story of ingredients, marketing, and truths hiding in plain sight. Click the video appearing on your screen now. Until next time, question everything you consume. The stories behind our food and drinks are often stranger, darker, and more fascinating than we ever imagined.